Hello and welcome to the Defense Café, the Liberal Security and Defense podcast brought to you by the Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom in Brussels. I am Sebastian Vagt, I'm your host from the Friedrich Naumann Foundation.
And my name is Teresa Reiter and I am a liberal defense enthusiast from Austria.
And today we will be speaking with Suleyman Aslami from the Netherlands. Suleyman is a foreign and defense policy advisor for Dutch party D66. He has previously worked in the Dutch Parliament in The Hague and has moved very recently to work in the European Parliament. With Suleyman, we will be speaking about
the Netherlands is a leader in European defense cooperation,
its desire to save money,
next steps towards a European army,
and about Dutch leger and liger. Here we are with Suleyman Aslami. Hello, Suleyman.
Hello, Sebastian.
Hi, Suleyman.
Hi, Teresa. Nice to hear you.
Thanks for joining us today, Suleyman. Suleyman, you've been working as a defense and foreign policy advisor for the Dutch party D66 for a couple of years now already. Most of the time you've done that job in the national Dutch parliament in The Hague. But very recently you've moved and you're doing the same job now in the European Parliament in Brussels. So that means you've moved during lockdown. How was that?
Yes, that was quite a challenge. Initially, I couldn't move because there was literally a lockdown. So the border between the Netherlands and Belgium was just closed. So the first 2 months I had to work from home in Amsterdam while starting a new job in Brussels. So it was it was very odd. Yeah, but luckily the borders opened and I was able to find an apartment and move to Brussels. And currently I'm in Brussels and working and living here.
Great, yeah, and you're certainly grateful to this experience that you could make. So far, you only knew from your parents and grandparents that there used to be a border between the Netherlands and Belgium, but you got to experience it yourself now, thanks to COVID-19. Yeah. Tell us maybe a bit more about your background. I mean, what made you affiliated to D66, and how come that defense and foreign policy are now your main areas of interest?
Yeah, well, I think it has everything to do with having an opinion and asking questions and wanting to know everything and being curious. So ever since I was a young teenager, I was participating in debating clubs at school, and I was always interested in politics and what went around in the world. And so later, when I started to study, I joined the Young Democrats. That's the sort of the D66 for youngsters. And then, the rest is history. That's actually really the point that everything kickstarted, and I started to have more interest, serious interest in politics and in D66 specifically. Yeah.
Now, you left out the episode that you once, I remember that from one of our conversations, you once worked at the Dutch embassy on Cuba. And I was very jealous about that. Is that true?
Yeah. That is true. Yes, I started in 2016, early 2014-15 was that I started at the Dutch embassy in Cuba, and it was a very exciting time. It was the time that Obama started with the reapproachment towards Cuba. There was all the attention internationally from Europe to all over the globe about the new approach towards Cuba, and it was a very, very interesting time. And obviously Cuba is an interesting country in itself due to its history and ties with Russia on one hand, and being very close to the United States on the other hand. So yeah, I started there, and then I came back to the Netherlands late 2016, and early 2017 we had the elections for the parliament, and that's where I actually started to work for D66 as a defense policy advisor. Yeah.
We're actually very happy to have you tonight, Suleyman, because this is the 4th episode of the Defense Cafe. So far, there was a slight bias of interviewees from Central and Eastern Europe who were, well, let's say, a bit more pessimistic or realistic about the future of European defense. Teresa and me were hoping to have a more optimistic guest with you tonight. And with that being said, over to you, Teresa.
Yes, you are our sunshine, obviously. Maybe.
Well, disclaimer: I can't guarantee that I can't give you any guarantees. I mean, I can be positive, but the reality is in the end it can be harsh. Yeah.
Okay, so let me dive right in. The Netherlands are viewed by some as a leader within Europe in bi- and multilateral defense cooperation. And I know you agree with me on that because I got that from a paper you wrote. I have an observation and a theory, and I need a minute to explain.
Sure.
I believe that the attitude towards European integration in the defense sector is directly related to the experience a country has made with threats to European security and their own security, and also experience it made with security cooperation. So the Netherlands has experience with security issues that are usually not perceived to be European in a sense. So we had the 25th anniversary of the Srebrenica genocide a few days ago, which is very important to the Netherlands since the blue helmets that were stationed in the United Nations so-called safe area in 1995 during the war, which turned out to be not safe at all. In Srebrenica, the soldiers there were Dutch. And in 2019, the Dutch Supreme Court upheld the ruling that Dutch UN peacekeepers had failed to protect people in Bosnia and have a limited responsibility, so not the whole, but a limited responsibility for some of the deaths there. In 2014, the Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 was shot down over Ukraine and 298 people died, 2/3 of them Dutch citizens. And on the other hand, so today, neither the war in Bosnia nor the violent conflict between Russia and Ukraine are seen as predominantly European conflicts. They were seen as something that happened far away. However, for the Netherlands, these conflicts are definitely not far away, right?
Yeah.
So the Netherlands today have made a number of very positive experiences with bilateral or multilateral defense cooperation. They're cooperating with Belgium and Luxembourg to protect the mutual airspace. There are Dutch units fully integrated in the German army. All of that works really well. So do you believe that both these very negative and the positive experiences are driving forces of the D66 and even the Netherlands as a whole to strive for more European cooperation in defense?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, I think the events in like Srebrenica or MH17, these are all historic events with major impact on Dutch society and Dutch politics in general. I mean, last weekend we commemorated Srebrenica, and every year there is a moment of silence for MH17. So I think these are all major historic events in general that really that really impacted the society in general in the Netherlands, and obviously also the political aspect of it has its consequences. But there are all more events that play a role. like the Dutch involvement in the war in Iraq, the several NATO missions in Afghanistan, which is, by the way, the home country of both of my parents. So it's I think it's very accurate to say that these events definitely play their role in how the Netherlands acts internationally in the safety and security and defense arena. Having said that, I think it's also a very it very depends on the parliament and on the political atmosphere at the moment. Coming back to your question, did it have an impact on how the Netherlands acts in the European defense cooperation? I think it does. We're very pragmatic. In one way, we cooperate with Germany. We have fully integrated corpses with Germany, and vice versa. We protect the airspace with Belgium and Luxembourg. We buy fridges together with Belgium. So there are all several initiatives that proves that the Netherlands actually is cooperating in European defense, and I think that's really a positive movement towards I think I hope an integration of more defense between more countries, but maybe that's a topic that you want to touch upon later. But yeah, I think also the Netherlands is too small to be able to do everything by itself, and historically we know that we just can't do it all by ourselves. So there is a sense of pragmatism that makes that the Netherlands does not have any other option than to cooperate with fellow member states in Europe, and also our allies in the United States and the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
You've mentioned pragmatism. And it makes a lot of sense that the Netherlands, with its geographical position and cultural proximity to Belgium, Luxembourg, and Germany, is cooperating a lot. But to look at it from a different side, if you look at the actual amount of money that the Netherlands are spending on defense, it's about 1.4% of its gross domestic product, which is not much. It's pretty far away from the 2%, the infamous 2% target within NATO. And it puts the Netherlands only on position 18 in the club of 28 member countries in 2019. And to be a bit more critical, it seems a bit that the countries who are spending the least are the most keen on more European defense cooperation. So the impression that is created a bit by that is that such countries may be very much interested in European defense cooperation or even a European army, but they may want others to pick up the bill. What's your take on that?
I don't think it has. I don't think it's I don't think it's that black and white. I think being aware of how much you spend and how to do it more efficiently and have more impact with the amount of money that you spend on defense is a good thing. I mean, look, in Europe we have more than 20 different types of aircraft, which is crazy. The US has only 6. So and there are multiple examples of how we in Europe spend on defense, and the fragmentation of it is really not helping. I mean, if you look at the procurement, if you look at how we spend money and the amount of the return of investment, it's really fragmented. So I think in that sense, it totally makes sense to cooperate and to get together and see where you can cooperate and buy together but yeah, we can do more. You're fully right. We have to spend more on defense. Security isn't free. So you're absolutely right about that. And I think we are making the right steps. We came from far away. I think the past 10, 20 years, there was this idea of it's all safe and we can, the world is safe and we actually don't know what will happen, and we might not need all these tanks, so we can sell them maybe, and we did that, and then we ended up realizing that we actually need those tanks, and then that's where the integration with the German division started. So I think we are becoming more and more aware in the Netherlands, and the fact that the world is intertwined, and that the safety and security and other parts of the world does have impact in Europe, and specifically also in the Netherlands. The refugee crisis, the war in Syria, the war in Iraq. I think these are all events that prove that defense and security really matters, and that doesn't come for free. So we have to pay. That's absolutely true. But on the other hand, 2%, it's it is a number, and I think we have to be pragmatic with that also, and we have to take it step by step, just like Germany and other fellow European countries, and work towards that percentage, but do it step by step, and I think we're heading the right way. And I think on the other hand, we have to also invest in the European defense market. We have to be able to build and buy our own European defense equipment. We have to. So the Netherlands right now is we're about to build submarines. Well, this is something that would be nice if it was European. So I think there is a lot of opportunity for Europe to really cooperate in defense market and integration in that aspect. Not only because we can actually save costs that we just spent right now.
Now I have to cut you off because I have a follow-up question exactly on that point. Anyone arguing in favor of a European Defense Union, a European army, whatever you may call it, makes the financial instrument, right? So in 2018 or something, the European Commission said that the lack of cooperation between member states in the field of defense is estimated to cost annually between 25 billion and 100 billion, which is not very precise. Nobody really knew what it meant annually. So, and they said this is because of inefficiencies, lack of competition, lack of economies of scale for industries, and so on. All of us making a case for a European army repeat these numbers like you just did. Like there are 17 types of main battle tanks in the EU. The US has one. 20 types of fighter planes in the EU. The US has 6. So we keep repeating these numbers. And I have on many occasions seen that parties, including liberal parties, including myself when writing a political program, have made the promise in election times that an EU army is a way of saving money. So here is my problem. While I believe that more cooperation in the defense sector is a very good way of spending taxpayers' money more efficiently, for many EU countries, European army would also mean that they would have to increase their efforts, their personal and their financial efforts to be able to contribute in a meaningful and a fair way to a European army. So because it is necessary to address growing security issues. So But we rarely say that when talking about the EU army, and opponents of more European integration in defense are making use of that. So if you look at the negotiations around the EU budget, the Commission proposal for the European Defense Fund was much higher than what the member states wanted. So some are selling these reductions in budget as a measure of disarmament and a measure for world peace, which it is not, as we know. Where do you land on that? Is the debate that we're having on finances honest enough?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. I think finance is one aspect. It's definitely not the key topic of why European defense integration is being such a difficult topic for political parties to discuss. I think on one hand it has everything to do with actually the sovereignty of the state, right? It's very unnatural to give away, in so to say, the sovereignty over your defense to Brussels. So there is this I think natural tendency to be very well, I don't want to say negative, but very aware of those steps. And we have had many debates in our parliament on this topic. And actually, there has been a big report by one of our leading think tanks, and it actually said that when it comes to sovereignty, it really implies the independency of the state in the international legal order, meaning that if you in the Netherlands, if the Netherlands alone, they cannot really mean anything in the international legal order. So if we want to have impact, then it means that we need to be able to cooperate, and we need to be able to, in that sense, also share that sovereignty with other member states. So I think on that aspect, it has there is this natural tendency to be very be very aware and not to take any further steps from the perspective of political parties. But when it comes to money, I think, well, it really depends. Some countries do need to invest more once there is a European army, so to say, and some countries they can perhaps spend less because they're all on a certain standard and level of which is the standard and the level that is needed at that moment. So, but yeah, we need to make steps because it won't happen by itself. So yeah.
Well, the Netherlands are in a way pioneers. I mean, the way I have seen the navies of the Netherlands and Belgium not only cooperate but integrate, I believe, is pretty unique in Europe. You may have the same amount of cooperation between the Baltics, but at a much smaller scale. Yeah. But from my times on a mine hunting vessel, which meant that I had to spend a lot of time in Zeebrugge, where we were trained and checked on by old Belgian Navy veterans. I've learned that the Belgian and Dutch Navy train their personnel together. They share a maritime headquarter. They share logistics, and they even purchase ships together. So yeah. I believe the Netherlands was in charge of buying frigates for both countries, and Belgium was in charge of buying mine hunters for both countries. So this is a level of integration which is pretty unique. And I know that your party, and you've been contributing to that quite a lot, has launched a paper which is paving the way or describing the way to a European army. So I'm wondering, is this the way forward? Is it that what you are recommending to other member states as well? Or do you see a European army rather as a additional European installation on top of the existing national ones. So how does the final product look if you were to decide, and what would be the next steps?
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting question. So from my perspective, I would say let's take it step by step, and let's start with the low-hanging fruit, right? As you can see, in the Netherlands, we can cooperate with Belgium when it comes to our naval assets. We work together with Germany when it comes to our land assets. So I think having those steps is really necessary to have a common culture, a common understanding of each other's way of working, but also on each other's standards, also in terms of communication and really on a tactical level. But on the other hand, we need on a more strategic level, we also need to pave the way to make it possible for cooperation. I think having a European defense headquarters is absolutely a must. If we want to be able to do European missions abroad, then we need to have an headquarters, and we actually formally don't have that yet. So I think it works both ways, taking the small steps on a very practical and pragmatic level when it comes to the low-hanging fruits, and on the other hand, making sure and paving the way that there are no there is no that there is room for cooperation, that there is a road paved, a roadmap towards more integration when it comes to defense and security.
Don't you think that, because you've mentioned the European headquarters, this would be a clear breach of the Berlin Plus agreement between NATO and the European Union, which says there shouldn't be any duplication between the two organizations? So how would this change the relationship between the two? Or do you even think that on the long run, we should rather believe that the European Union will be the organization we defend ourselves with and not NATO?
Well, I think currently both can exist parallel next to each other. It doesn't mean that once we have a European headquarters, we can't have a NATO headquarters. Recently, we had the European mission in the Strait of Hormuz, which was, I think, a clear message and a clear signal that both can exist. And currently, I mean, looking back to last 2, 3, 4 years during the presidency of Trump, our big ally in the United States was not the ally that we had before. So the relationship is changing, and Europe really needs to be able to defend itself and defend its own strategic interests, and to be able to do that, we definitely need a headquarters. I mean, Libya has shown that we were so dependent from our allies that we couldn't actually do anything. And actually, recently the think tank Advisory Council on International Affairs in the Netherlands came up with an advice. There was a resolution that D66 during my period we put in the parliament, and the advice said that the Dutch government, really needs to reorientate and cooperate when it comes to European security with France and Germany, and that the EU needs to be able to do military missions on itself, and that can be parallel to NATO. So there was, so to say, always an overlap between the tasks within the EU and within the NATO. So I think it's a welcome, a warm welcome from NATO side as well when EU is taking up the gloves and making sure that that there are steps towards more defense and more spending and etc. So I think it's a positive sign.
One more question on, I mean, I share much of what you just said. Also, what you're saying about European Defence Headquarters. But what would be the next step? I know that, I mean, the Netherlands can serve as a role model in many ways for European defense, I believe, when it comes to their behavior, especially on the European level. But what would you, I know that we once talked about getting the national parliaments, the committees on defense, to cooperate a little bit more and develop, I think there is maybe a mutual threat perception, but to some extent at least, but not a mutual perception on what is to be done to address these threats. So from a mere practical point, from a mere pragmatic point of view, what would you do to get the national parliaments, the national defense advisors of the different member states to cooperate more closely and maybe get on the same page?
Yeah, no, this is really a challenge. I think this is also one of the proposals that we did back last year when we initiated our policy paper. We proposed to have a interparliamentary group of defense parliamentarians to come together once or twice a year and share their views on defense. And I think this is necessary. This is necessary to have a common perception of threats, but also to have a common perspective on a way forward. I mean, also we have to take into account that different parliaments have different way of working. You can't compare the system in Germany with the system in France, where the president has a bigger role compared to the chancellor. So I think there's a lot that we can learn from each other by just coming together at least twice a year and discussing the world and the developments in the European defense arena. And yeah, I hope this year we can initiate that. I'm looking forward to the German presidency. I know our German friends are very much keen on cooperation on European level as well. So I'm actually quite positive in that sense.
Yes, a lot of hopes, but also some pressure on the German presidency. They will have to sort out a few things. And I hope as well, like you, Suleyman, that they will also dedicate a bit of their time on European defense. Suleyman, you now have the chance to condense everything that you've just said in one picture that our listeners will go home with or stay home with. It's the one question that you probably already know from previous podcast episodes. The question is, if European defense cooperation was an animal, what animal would you like it to be?
And why?
Yes. Well, that's the question that I was waiting all this time for. So it's.
Can I just say, Sebastian was waiting for it too, because our listeners cannot see that, but in the chat he wrote, "After this, I'll get to the animal question."
Yes. Well, it's actually a very interesting question, and I really thought about it, and I was like wondering, like, well, what would be the answer to this question, looking to the discussions that we had and the state of European defense cooperation right now. So what would be my answer? I think my answer would be that right now it is a tiger cub. So it's growing and it can become a full-grown tiger. able to defend Europe, able to be strong, but still some time and some steps needed in order to become fully an adult tiger. And so in that sense, I think it's a representation of where we stand right now. And I think naturally and hopefully in a positive way, Europe grows when it comes to European Defense Union and becomes an adult tiger.
Very nice, and also very similar to what F said from France, because she said it is a baby lion and it could grow to be a big lion.
Oh, really? That's a nice one. So
Liger.
I'm waiting for the podcast that episode that one of our defense experts says, "Wow, European Defense Union is actually a liger."
A liger? What is a liger?
That's what
is something between a tiger and a lion. So if the mom, but I don't know, there is it has to be. I think the mom has to be a lion, right?
I think so too. Yeah.
Because other way around, it's called something else. It's like with donkey and horse. If it's other way around, it's called something else. So yeah.
I'm just checking it on YouTube and Wikipedia, and you're right, it exists. It's called the largest cat in the world.
There you go.
Thank you so much for all that, Suleyman.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. We will wish you best of luck for your real life start that you're living through now in the European Parliament, and we hope we can talk to you again soon. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Of course. Thank you for your time, and lovely to be here.
Thank you. Goodbye, Suleyman.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.
I have never ever heard about a liger. I knew about a zebonke, like if you cross a zebra and a donkey. I knew that existed. I have met a zebonke before in a zoo, but I didn't really know that the liger. And it also exists the other way around. There's tigon, like if the male, if like the dad is a tiger and the mother is a lion, it's called tigon. Just learned that as well.
I feel like I need to protect our listeners from your extensive animal knowledge. So how about we talk about our next episode?
Yes, the next episode will be an exciting one because we have, again, a surprise for you. Our guest will be Jeroen Dobber. Jeroen Dobber is the new coordinator of the FNF Security and Defense Hub at the Naumann Foundation office in Brussels. He will join us. He will tell us a bit more about his activities.
Okay, so see you next time. Please, if you like this episode, share it with your friends on social media. If you have any ideas or questions and maybe feedback on how we can improve in our next episodes, please write to us and see you next time.
Yes, please do so. See you soon for episode number 5.
Ciao.